Welcome to the next episode of To the Point. I'm Jason Filmer, your host. Today we're going to have James Higgins on. He is the president of Higgins Commercial Insurance. He's been in the insurance industry for 17 years. Welcome, James.
Thank you.
It's good to have you on the show.
Nice to be here.
So we're going to talk about insurance, everyone's favorite subject.
Yep.
Sure, it will be
Absolutely.
exciting.
It's
So we're
it's
going to focus.
fascinating stuff.
Oh, it is, absolutely,
Yeah.
especially for people who own buildings, especially
Yes.
right now with all the flooding going on.
Yep.
A lot of people are really
Yes.
fascinated by it. So let's start
Yes.
off. Let's talk about insurance, and we're going to focus on the rental, income property type insurance. So, what type of
Yes.
insurance would you recommend someone who had an income property?
Well, I mean, I guess it all depends on, again, how many units. Um, I know there's a lot of insurance companies that will, add a rental property to your homeowner's policies, insure it as a second location. Um, if you only have one rental property, that's actually a good way to do it. I have one rental property, and I have it on as a second location on my homeowner's policy. If you're getting into any multi-unit buildings, 4-unit buildings, duplexes, triplexes, 6 units, 12 units, at that point, you're looking at it getting into, having a commercial insurance policy in place. So.
Okay, well, that's good. Are there any differences in the types if you had, say, a condo, a house that you're renting, or an apartment building?
Uh, yeah, there's different forms. Obviously, there's a big difference between a condo insurance policy and a detached dwelling insurance policy. Whether and again, it really doesn't matter how many units are involved. Um, Condo insurance is not huge yet in New Brunswick. I mean, it's becoming more common. It's obviously huge in the bigger centers of the GTA.
Right.
And actually, rental insurance is kind of a thing in Ontario now, obviously, because of the preponderance of, well, you've been to Toronto.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. It's and a lot of those condos in Toronto are being purchased as income properties too. So I mean, people aren't ever planning to live there. But again, with a
True.
condo, if you're renting a condo, it's still a condo policy.
That's
So
good. Fair enough. So let's get
yep.
into sort of tenant insurance.
Yes.
What is tenant insurance or renter's insurance?
Well, tenant's policy is basically a personal a policy that covers your personal property. So if you're a single individual, you're 20, 24 years old. You may have $25,000 worth of personal property. You insure that property, and with it comes liability, which for building owners is probably the most important. I guess one of the reasons you want your tenants to have insurance in place is obviously for liability reasons.
Mhm.
But in addition, there's also additional living expenses too. In the event of a fire, if you have a tenant's policy in place, you're going to obviously have your contents insured. But they're also going to, if you have additional expenses because of being out of your apartment for 1 month, 6 months, that's part of the policy as well, which is very important for building owners. Which is why building owners should want to make sure and ensure that their tenants have policy in place.
Okay.
There's
So
nothing.
having, oh, sorry. So having your
No, go
tenants
ahead.
require insurance helps the owner's policy.
Well, it's good risk management for beginners. Most leases, or I've seen leases that don't have it, but a good lease is going to require the tenant to have an insurance policy in place, whether it's a commercial tenant or residential tenant. It's a good policy. A lot of companies actually won't insure buildings that don't have a a lease, an annual or a month to month lease in place, and the confirmation that the tenant has insurance. So it's become more of an issue over the past few years, actually.
Does the type of lease your tenants have, say month to month or a year lease, affect the owner's insurance for coverage?
Again, it's kind of a big question because each company has their own rules and appetites, and so in speaking in generalities, whether you have a month-to-month lease or an annual lease really doesn't affect the insurance policies per se. But a lot of companies will not insure a building without at least having a month-to-month lease. So,
okay.
Yeah.
I know in St. John, and even the rest of the Maritimes, there's a lot of older buildings. St.
Yes.
John definitely has buildings over 100, 150 years old. Does that
Yes.
affect the policies?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, in St. John, if you can afford, a broad farm replacement cost policy for any type of income property, it's best to have it in place. I mean, however, if you've just purchased 1890s tenement home that's frame construction, has some but not all updates: electrical, roof, plumbing. You're going to be limited in you're going to be limited by form. So the perils that you can actually insure that building for may be limited due to the age of the building. And it may be cost prohibitive to insure that building to its full replacement cost. Because as you know, there's a big discrepancy, especially in St. John, between the market value, what you're paying for the building, its actual cash value,
Right.
which is usually pretty close to the market value, and then its replacement cost. There's people buying, a 6-unit, frame apartment building that's 6,500 square feet on 4 levels. It'd be $1.4 million to replace that thing, but they
Right.
bought it
Yeah.
for $185,000. So how do you insure it? Do you insure it for the 185, or do you insure it for 1.4 million? If you have a company willing to insure it for the 1.4 million, it could be costing you $16,000 a year for the policy, and it's just not.
Wow.
That's not a. It's not a good use of money, really. So
So
again,
what would you recommend? Like if you're an investor coming to St. John, you're looking at buildings,
yeah,
what should they be looking for? I mean, a lot of them don't think of insurance until after the fact. So they
yeah,
look at all
oh
the
yeah,
numbers. Yeah, they look at all the numbers.
some
They look at the rents. What should they be really looking for when it comes to insurance?
yeah, some purchasers think about it the day before closing. So
Yes, I've seen that.
oh, as have I.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, again, my first recommendation is, deal with a broker who knows the city, especially in St. John, whether it's St. John or Halifax.
Mhm.
There's a lot of brokers out there that know more than just their own city. But you know. A good broker is going to give you some options, right? They're going to discuss again the actual cash value versus replacement cost. Again, and
Right.
replacement cost is always best. However, depending your price point of what you're purchasing, it may not be an option, right? I don't think I answered your question. I lost my train of thought. So
That's fine.
yeah,
I know, like in our business, and we deal with a lot of different owners and buildings and stuff, and
yeah,
a couple cases where we've had fires, and the insurance. There was a couple times I've seen the insurance companies come in. They look at the cost of repairing everything, and they just write a blank. They write a check, and the owner can go in and do what he will. There's some that policies require you actually do the scope of work, and they come in and inspect the scope of work to make sure they're getting the value.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
which would be the best way to go when it comes to that? Like, should you just say get the cash and then do what you want, or is it better to get the cash and have someone actually make sure the work's getting done?
That's a big question. That's a huge
Thanks.
question.
That's why I'm the host.
Yeah. Oh, hey, man. Quite honestly, there's benefits to both. It depends on how much is invested in the building. What is the scope of the loss? Was it a small fire? Was it limited to one unit? Again, in sometimes on a Lloyd's type policy, they're just going to come in and they're going to write it for $20,000 and say, "Have at it," and close the claim. And again, we've had clients that have had to deal with those situations. I have a client who's dealing with a major $500,000 rebuild right now because of a fire. So,
Okay.
And again, so these things happen. So it's really hard. It's really hard to say. Again, it all comes down to, again, whether you have actual cash value or replacement costs. That's huge. That's a big.
Right.
That's a big thing. And again, there's I'm always going to recommend broad form coverage, replacement costs. Again, can you obtain that coverage at the price point, or is it going to be too expensive? And you may not even be able to get the coverage, right? Updates are big. Again, that you've got companies looking for. What I recommend someone. I mean, it depends on what your budget is. You're sitting in Calgary. You don't have the money to invest in that market. Few people do. So and we see a lot of outside investors putting money into in New Brunswick.
Yes.
Some of them have 200,000. They're buying a $200,000 5-unit rental, and they're just easing themselves into the market. And as you know, some of them are purchasing much. They're putting a lot of money into the city and into the market.
I know this year alone, there's been outside investors have bought millions of dollars in property in the city.
Yeah.
And it seems to not be stopping or slowing down anytime soon.
No. We're the tail's wagging the dog. Really, I mean, you see a lot of money leaving certain markets. People are selling. People are getting out of the markets, and they see a lot of benefit to investing in New Brunswick, which is great. Even with the tax scheme. So.
Yeah, no, the tax scheme definitely, that's a topic for another day. We could probably go on for hours.
Was I not supposed to mention that?
You can. No, you can. Absolutely. Nothing wrong with that. So I want to get back to tenant insurance.
Sure. Absolutely.
People out there that are tenants that are thinking about getting insurance. I know at Canada Homes, we always recommend that the tenants get it, that it's always a good idea. Do you see one in the future that it becomes mandatory in the province? To what type of coverage would a tenant expect to get, and how much would that roughly cost?
Again, I don't deal with tenants insurance, so I may get corrected tomorrow about that. But I mean, you could a $25,000 tenants package in St. John, in Fredericton, in Moncton, if in a hydro protected area, you're probably looking at about $220 a year, I think.
Right.
Maybe. Again, it's what you need. Again, really, all building owners should be, if not requiring, at least, well, again, some insurance companies require you to, get evidence of insurance from your tenants.
Right.
It's who wants to see 6 of their tenants put out on the street after a fire, and you as the landlord going, sorry. The red. There's a GoFundMe campaign. Red Cross gets involved. Nobody wants that for their tenants, right?
No.
Yeah. So I mean, if it's at all affordable, people should have it. Unfortunately, there are a lot of individuals in St. John, in other centers around the Maritimes that, quite honestly, probably can't afford tenants insurance, and that's unfortunate, but it's reality. So.
No, that's true, and you want to be able to help as many people as you can. I know we've had incidences here where something has happened and they didn't have tenant insurance, and
Yeah,
they're out in the cold. I mean, we do what we
I know.
can to
Yeah,
help them find something else, but you got to look at your replacement of your clothes, your furniture.
yeah.
That particular night that the event happens, where are you going to stay? And I
Hmm.
know tenant insurance will cover, hotel, they'll cover
Yes.
clothing, replacement
Yep.
of items, things like that.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. So, and again, I see GoFundMe campaigns on Facebook every once a month for someone who's lost everything in their home
Right.
and or their apartment, and they didn't have insurance, and it's a shame, but yeah.
Okay. Well,
Again,
I'm going to open up. Oh, go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say I still don't believe that I've answered your question on tenants insurance, but that's all you're getting from me right now.
I think it was adequate considering.
Okay.
I think it
All
was a
right.
good answer. I mean, we always recommend people get it. Tenant insurance is
Absolutely.
very important, especially when you need it. It's like
Yeah.
any type of insurance. When you need it, it's great.
Yep.
I'm going to open it up to our viewers. Anyone out there watching have any particular questions or they want us to expand on anything, just write in the comments below, and we will definitely do that.
Right on.
I don't know, is there anything else you want to touch on, James, while you're here?
Um, flood insurance. That's an interesting one.
That's a hot
Um,
topic right now.
it is a hot topic right now, as you know. I mean, flood of I'd say the century, but I don't think there's been this much water in southern New Brunswick ever. So,
What I
so
heard, not since 1973.
well,
I know
I heard
2008 the levels were high, but this
yeah,
high, I don't even know if they've ever been this high. But the highest before that was, I think it's 73.
73. Yeah,
That's
I
what I
it's
heard.
it's it's my understanding that the Quispam, Oak Bay, up to Hampton, it's exceeded 1973 levels. So this
Wow.
is yeah, this is 2018's the new 1973. So
So I mean, it's kind of off, not off topic, but off for the
yeah,
renters. But I mean, it's something to touch on. Um,
hmm,
with flood insurance,
yes,
what exactly is flood insurance? I've heard people say, well, it only covers broken pipes or sewage backup. This is an
okay.
act of God, so it's not covered. Like, what exactly is flood insurance?
Well, flood insurance is an endorsement that is added on to either a homeowner's policy, and again, only recently are you even able to get a flood coverage for your house. That's something that the insurance industry over the past 6 or 7 years has worked towards. After the Bow River incident, the flooding in Calgary, the flooding in the GTA back a few years ago, it really brought it to the forefront of the Canadian insurance industry, and they've put together packages. On the commercial side, flood insurance has been around for a long time. It's something that, if you have a 12-unit apartment building on the east side of St. John, and it's insured on a broad form replacement cost basis, you're going to, in most cases, unless you've for some reason deleted the coverage, you probably have flood insurance. It's a common extension on pretty much all commercial insurance policies. And it's been available, from what I know, from at least the early 1970s. Um,
Okay.
so it's nothing new. It comes with high deductibles. Okay? You're looking a flood deductible on a 1.2 million dollar 12-unit apartment. You're probably only paying about $150 a year for it, on like as an endorsement. It probably comes with a 25 or $50,000 deductible. So it's something that it's going to be catastrophic if you're actually putting money through for a flood claim. So I
Oh,
mean,
really?
the first 25,000's on you. So I mean, that's a lot.
Well,
That's
floods can cause a lot of damage.
yes, they can. Yes, they can. And again, now I do know that there's federal funding available for the poor folks being affected by the floods we're dealing with right now. However, I haven't actually gotten through the wordings of those. They've changed the assistance program, from what I understand,
Right.
over the past couple of years. So this is going to be a big test of how the government deals with flood relief. So it'd be interesting to see how. Well, not interesting. It's kind of sad to say that, but from from a technical standpoint, it will be interesting. I wouldn't want to be
Okay.
the individual having to learn the process.
No, not at all. So we do have a
Yep.
question from Jeff Murray,
Okay.
who we all
Ah,
know and
Jeff
love.
Murray.
Yes, hi
Yes.
Jeff. Thanks for watching every week. It's great. I think we touched on this, but we'll answer it again. What are some of the things owners should look for when getting property insurance?
Again, we've touched on a few of those points, I think. Um, and again, it's something like if you invest probably about a half an hour, 45 minutes, you can read through. There's a few websites out there that'll break down for, it's basically like a primer for, hey, what is property insurance. Um, and again, it goes down to knowing what perils are covered.
Right.
Do you have coverage if a pipe breaks? Right? What's my deductible? You know, Pipe breaks in an older building. A lot of times you can get a plumber in, you can fix it, patch it up. It's a couple $100, maybe $500. Well, most commercial rental property policies come with $1,000 deductible. So a lot of these little jobs are probably not for your insurance company.
Hmm.
And again, this is stuff you guys deal with on a daily basis at Canada Homes for Rent. I mean, kind of, measuring the impact of a broken pipe and saying, hey, this one's probably going to be worth, at least calling your insurance company on.
Okay. So we have another question from
Okay.
Michelle Hardy.
Ah.
I've had clients ask why rates they get now are different from what the seller has. Can you explain why?
I can propose. Well, and again, I deal with this on again, $500,000 building in St. John, right? Or a 500
Right.
purchase. Um, what kind of policy did the seller have? How long did the seller have that policy in place for? If the seller owned the building for 12 years and had it insured with the same company, they may have a grandfathered rate. They may be dealing with an insurance company that doesn't have, again, flood coverage. Is there flood
Right.
coverage? Is there earthquake coverage? Is there sewer backup coverage? There's a lot of bells and whistles on a commercial policy. in and it's a disclosure issue too. It's pretty easy
Right.
for me to say, oh, $2,400. Well, for what? It doesn't tell me anything. All it says is you paid $2,400 for insurance last year. And maybe you can get the same policy for $1,800. Maybe that policy is $3,200 now. Because again, the market is fickle; it's up and down.
Right.
And again, based on things like our insurance companies paying out millions of dollars for floods, wildfires in Alberta. These are huge, catastrophic events, and so your rate for an apartment building this year with company A could just go up 20%.
Okay. I know I've had clients ask that. They've always, what did the last owner pay? I was like,
Yep.
it's irrelevant what they paid because things
Yeah,
change. And
that's right.
I think, you're a broker, and I think that's why it's good to go to a broker, is because you
Yes,
can ask different insurance companies, you can get different answers and
absolutely.
different rates.
Yeah, yeah. And as far as uh, there's a lot of companies that aren't even insuring commercial property. You know,
Oh,
um, of the five largest insurance companies in Canada, um, I'm going to venture a guess and say only two of them would insure that 12-unit apartment building in St. John for you. The other
wow.
ones would say no, they don't want to. And there's one of those companies that, 1 year could take a 25 or 30% increase. So then you either pay it or you have your broker shop for you.
Wow.
Right? So.
Okay, so I have a scenario happened maybe last year or the year before. So we had a building, it's connected. So you have it's really one building, but there's two PIDs. And the plumbing in the building ran through. So on our side, the plumbing ran through, but then the pipe went into the building adjacent to us and then out to the city line. Now the part that broke happened on their side. It was our sewage line, but it happened on their side of the building, not our side of the building. So they were affected. So as far as in the insurance side, who's responsible or who's covers that incident? Because their basement got full of raw sewage that came from our building.
Yeah.
Because the pipe, but it went through their building. It's just the way the building was built, because it was probably one building at one time, and now it's two separate buildings. So how does that work?
Well, as an insurance broker, I would recommend that both owners, their insurance companies, and get adjusters involved and let the adjusters fight it out. Sorry, that's the only thing you can do. That's an interesting one. That's one that adjusters sit around at the end of the week at Rockies and discuss strange occurrences. That's a strange one. It's different, but again, I don't know how that one. Honestly, probably what would happen there would be the company. Both companies would be paying out, and they would argue amongst themselves as to what the numbers are.
Right.
Yeah.
I know I wouldn't say a legal stand. I'm not a lawyer by any stretch of the imagination, but as far as who's responsible to fix it, it did fall on the other property's owner because the pipe was on their property, even though it was our sewage line. So they were responsible for the costs and all that. Now, normally, I would suggest to any owners out there, it doesn't hurt to be a good neighbor and share the costs, if you can. But legally, it's their responsibility, and they would have to pay the bill.
Yeah, that's a different one.
Yeah, I see all kinds of different stuff.
Me too.
Yeah, I imagine you do. Okay, so again, if there's anyone out there who has a question, please post a comment, and we'll answer your question or elaborate on something we've already talked about. James, is there anything else you want to touch on before we end the program?
I don't think so. Not that I can think of.
Okay. No, that's great. Well, it was great having you on. This is the usual time that people start throwing questions at me, by the way, as soon as I start signing off.
Yeah.
So if anyone does have a question and they post it on our link, we will get to you. I'll make sure James gets your questions, and he can contact you. If anyone wants to contact you, of course, here they come. If anyone does want to contact you directly, James, how would they reach you?
Website, my phone number, Google me. I come up.
What is your phone number, James? Come on, tell the world.
849-7800.
Give them a call, 849-7800. So here, we're going to go with a couple more questions before we sign off, because, like I said, every week, this is when they start coming in. Another one from Jeff Murray. James, have you ever run across some old situations that have taken place over the years, and how did they play out? Odd situations. Yeah. Tell us some of your strangest stories, James.
Whew. Oh man, you know what? I didn't know that we were going to be talking about weird and wonderful stories of insurance stories, right?
Yeah. This is fly by the seat of your pants kind of show, so you never know what's going to come up. Well, we did a show on evictions. We talked about bed bugs for 10 minutes. So
bed bugs, yes. Yeah. Well, that's a big deal. Hey, it's an insurance question too. Is it covered?
See, I didn't know that. Is it covered?
It's not. No.
That's where I want it.
Yeah, no. And again, when I say no, I mean, there could be a company out there that for some reason does not have that exclusion in there, and it could skip by. I don't deal with all the insurance companies out there. There's 212 companies that write insurance in New Brunswick. It's a lot.
It is. And bed bugs is a big cost on an owner.
Bed
to
bugs?
treat
Oh,
them
it's
if, yeah,
huge.
it's huge.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. No, I have clients. Again, I probably get that question 3 or 4 times a year. Again, commercial property owners. It's a real pain in the ass. It's horrible. Bed bugs.
Yeah. So
It's a
another
big problem.
question we have from Michelle Hardy again. Is there
Ah,
any buildings that you won't cover and why?
well, it's really not up to me, right?
Yeah.
Um, I'll tell you, prolonged vacancy is a big one. I know there's, well, we all know that there was some companies that owned a lot of vacant dwellings in St. John. I mean, that's a big
Hmm.
problem too, with all the, um, there's a market for anything. There's a company that's going to put a number to it. You know, um, you know. However, if you've got a building that's been derelict, uh, even to get a liability policy on it is kind of difficult. Do you know what I mean? Um,
Hmm.
that that would be so if you've got a building that's been sitting there for 2 years, um, I might it poses a bit of a moral hazard, moral risk. Why do you want insurance on it now? Why didn't you
Yeah.
have insurance on it now? The insurance companies, the underwriters of the companies are going to be asking those questions, and but that's pretty much it. I mean, even like these. Um, there's not too in dealing with St. John. There's not too many buildings that are pre 1880, obvious for obvious reasons. But there are a lot that were built in the 1890s, 1910s. That maybe that's one thing that I can stress is for building owners. From an insurance standpoint, the two really big obvious updates on these older tenement style housing buildings in St. John, Fredericton, Moncton, they're all pretty much the same. Obviously, there's older ones in St. John. Your electrical updates, knob and tube is not a good thing. A
No.
lot of there are still a couple companies that insure it. If it has knob and tube, but actually there's like one, and you don't want to pay the rates. So if you're getting if you're purchasing a new building, and there's knob and tube, and whoever is selling it to you said, well, we have insurance on it. I might suggest they have insurance on it because the insurance company is unaware of the knob and tube, and the insurance company that insures it is probably going to take the opportunity to stop insuring it
Okay. So I have another
at that point.
question from Joel
Okay.
Armstrong. This is actually a good
All right.
question. I'd like to hear the answer for this. So does any of the insurance providers you deal with cover damage caused by tenants? Extensive damage, not small issues like holes in walls, but like someone comes in and
Yeah.
just trashes the place.
No. No. Again, this I want to say that's um, a pretty common exclusion, going back to, I don't know, I want to say the 1970s.
Hmm.
Um, but no, there was a time when an insurance policy would cover tenants vandalism, but no one will do it. It's just excluded.
Okay.
Um, so again, if someone can prove, like, if someone prove me wrong, please, because I get that question a lot. I'm unaware of that coverage being available in the market. Is a
I've
better
heard of a company, and it's not insurance.
no.
I forget what they call it, but they will cover, I think, damage, and I'll look into it. And if anyone's interested, they can contact me. I believe
Hmm.
they cover damages up to $10,000, and they
Hmm.
will cover lost rent on units that sit empty after an eviction. It is not an insurance policy, but it's a company
That's
that
is that
covers
the
those type of
is
things.
that the that's the company out of Ontario.
Yes, yeah, I
Yeah,
can't for the life of me
yeah.
think of the name of them, and I'd like to get them on
I
the show actually.
yeah. I have. I don't believe it's available in New Brunswick. A. Um, and I'm going. I checked them out. I checked out their website about a year ago because a local realtor actually quizzed me on that probably a year and a half ago. So I did look
Hmm.
into it for a client. Um, again, I can't speak to that. I have trouble getting my head around how that even can make money. Do you know what I mean? Like
My
how?
understanding is they take a percentage of the rents every month, and
Yeah,
that's how
yeah,
they do it.
yeah, yeah,
Again, if anyone wants more information, we'll definitely look into it.
yeah, yeah. Oh, absolutely, yeah, yeah. No, and again, I mean, and that comes down to really, if it works out for your business model,
Mm-hmm.
and something like that's available. Again, I don't believe it's available in New Brunswick though, and I could be wrong on that, but I want to say that it's not available in the Maritimes. So, for whatever reason.
I know it's something we looked at, and again, I'll get some more information. Anyone wants
Yeah,
information on it, get a hold of me,
yeah,
and we'll definitely look into it. Okay,
yeah.
so if anyone else has any questions, please leave it in the comments. This is what happens, I'm telling you. No, it was great having you on, James.
Hey,
Some really good
thank you
information.
for having me.
Oh, no problem. We'll probably have you on again in the future. So thanks for coming. Anyone out there watching, please, if you have any comments you want to leave after the show, we will definitely make sure James gets the questions, and he will definitely get in touch to answer those questions.
It would be my pleasure.
Awesome. Thanks very much,
All
James.
right, man.
Nice having you on the show.
Cheers. All right,
Thank
have a
you.
good
Good
one.
night.